come up on your screen. So welcome everyone. We should now be recording, and you should have seen that notification appear, I hope. I think it'll be a relatively short call this week. Only got a small number of things to cover off, but we'll run through those. And of course, if anyone has anything that you wish to raise, then sort of please do so as we run through. But first things first, Glenn Dean sends his apologies. This is in his capacity as co-chair of the ADD working group, I think, because his daughter's 16th birthday today, so he's taking a well-earned day off. But you may have seen he sent a note out to the ADD mailing list. I think it was back end of last week, just highlighting, well, sharing his thoughts on the way forward on the user requirements document that Chris Box put the first sort of draft on.
Visualizations are used.
So I think someone just come off mute unintentionally. Glenn just put some thoughts out on the list, just to suggest a way forward with the user requirements document, which is essentially to identify the simpler user requirements into one grouping, and the more complex user requirements into a second grouping. And as a subsequent to that, Chris Box made some comments as to where the dividing line may fall, on which were the simpler and which are the more complex. And obviously, it's a relatively subjective dividing line. So two reasons for raising that. One was to encourage others, if you've not already done so, to just reflect on the email that Glenn sent out, and if you have any thoughts on it, please respond to the list with those thoughts, and we can discuss it on here in a moment as well, if that's useful. And then secondly, irrespective of where the dividing line falls on the user requirements, the other task that needs to be tackled is to sort of help Chris and the other people that contributed out, and to help to sort of flesh out the content of the user requirements document, particularly the actual requirements themselves. So you've got a combination of both a sort of mini use case and then the associated user requirements that go with it. Some of those are more fleshed out than others. So part of the task is to flesh them out. The second task then is to work out which grouping to put the two in. The assumption being, if you haven't seen Glenn's note, that work can be undertaken to address the needs of the two groups separately. So potentially there might be a common solution for the simple requirements and a common solution for the complex requirements, hopefully with some interworking across them, but it would then just enable sort of work to start on the actual development of the solution, probably initially by reviewing some of the existing internet drafts that have been submitted to the group, to perhaps work out where they fit against which group, because we've probably got the bones of the solutions already there. But we've almost got embarrassment of riches in terms of the number of drafts, and we just work out how to put out the best bits of those that we have, in order to work out the right solution against, as I say, the simple and then the more complex of the two sets of requirements. Since Chris is on the call, do you have anything to add to that, Chris? Have I overcomplicated that, or any additional thoughts above and beyond what I've said?
So I'm essentially, I was kind of expecting that there would be more input from the rest of the working group on this, and maybe it's just too early. because yeah, we're all doing many other things apart from the working group. Because yeah, the key thing is there any serious objection to doing it this way? And obviously, the only people who've commented on the list are you and me at the moment. But if there's no objection, then yeah, I think that you're right. We go ahead and we issue a new draft that is that focuses on the lower complexity cases, and then hopefully that can be looked at by the rest of the group, and changes made to get it in line, hopefully for something we can work on in 109.
Yeah. So yeah, that is a fair comment. If anyone thinks it's the wrong way forward, you're quite right, Chris. That probably that needs to be said first. So yeah, we need to have that debate, as well as if it is the right way forward, then to work out where the dividing line should fall, etc. Now on the chat, I can see that Pat has asked if anyone can share the URL. I take it you mean, Pat, of the user requirements document? Yes. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone have that to hand? Because it'd be hard for me to multitask and talk, make notes, and also look that up. But if you do, if someone could put the URL. Oh, okay. Thanks, Chris. I'll obviously put it in the notes as well, but that would be useful. So can I ask, I don't know if anyone, oh, sorry, I see Joey, you've raised your hand as well. Apologies, I didn't see that.
No problem. Yeah, just to repeat a little bit what Jim Breed said in a previous call, and also myself during the ITF 108. Yeah, like we'll just have to take a closer look at where the line is being defined between the less complex and more complex use cases for the draft, so we don't fall back into what happened in the previous ITF, right, where everything was just too like it wasn't consolidated enough, right? At the previous ITF, there were way too many documents that were kind of repeating a little bit what each other was saying. So yeah, just to add my opinion back on that track.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a fair point, because I think we're lucky in the volume of documents that have been put forward on the one hand, but it does mean we now need to turn that into a more manageable list. And what I will do for anyone that hasn't sort of recently perused the sort of list of documents, I've just posted a URL which gives you at least the index of the documents to get a sense of what's already there. And there is a good number of drafts from which we need to tease out what the key ones are, and then hopefully consolidate into a more manageable number of documents. But I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on whether that's in principle the right way forward. And if you have, if you want to share them now, you don't have to, but it'd be interesting if anyone does have a view, if you've had a chance to think about it or not. Or if not, if you're then if you could give it some consideration and then respond on the ADD mailing list, that will be extremely helpful, whether you think it is the right way forward or not. And then going back to the earlier point, if you could have a look at the user requirements document itself, and then just consider, does it capture the important use cases for you, and then have a look at the underlying requirements coming out of them, and see if you can help to flesh out the detail of those requirements, which will also be extremely helpful. Okay, so that was really on the email from Glenn. As I say, he sent his apologies, but it is his daughter's 16th birthday, which I think is a fine reason to take a day off. And of course, it's worth just bearing in mind that we are only a few short weeks away from IETF 109. If you've not seen it already, the draft agenda is accessible on the IETF website. I think it will be next Friday when that, or sorry, this coming Friday when that will be finalised. It does already contain 2 separate sessions for the ADD working group. One of 1 hour, one of 2 hours. I think the first one's on Monday. The second one's later in the week. It may even be on the Friday. I wouldn't swear to that. But of course, that may change before the agenda itself is finalised. But just a reminder: if you intend to attend the meeting, if you haven't already registered, you've missed the early bird cutoff because that was last Friday. But you do have I think a couple of weeks before the next cutoff date. So it's gone up from $230 to $280. I think in a couple of weeks' time it goes up to $330, unless you go for the fee waiver. So there's a good reason to register now if you're intending to register rather than leave it. Okay, so that was it in terms of the ADD document. By way of a follow-up to our discussion last week, for those of you that weren't on the call, just to précis that, Andy Fiddler from BT and Dave Cleland queried an increase in DNS traffic volumes and shared a Reddit sort of post which highlighted that various different people were seeing an increase in DNS traffic that had sort of really kicked up since the 18th of September when iOS 14 went live. And the query on the call was whether there was any correlation or whether that was just a coincidence. I queried that with Tommy Pawley, and Tommy has suggested that it's certainly possible that it is down to iOS 14, and it should be easy to confirm by checking the query types that are being sent for the DNS traffic. Specifically, I think whether it's type 65, which I think is a good indicator for iOS 14 and iPadOS 14 as well, of course. He also has gone on to add, it's also possible that some recursive resolvers are not caching the HTTPS responses appropriately. He poses that as a question, to be fair. So there's not quite a definitive response to that, but certainly acknowledgement that it is indeed possible that traffic increase is down to iOS 14. I'll share the response after the call because it's only just come through. But I thought you would want to know that, as Tommy had been kind enough to come back. Now, the only things I wanted to mention this week was just some upcoming meetings, just briefly. So you hopefully will have seen that this time next week, we've got a session on GDPR. So by popular demand, if in fact any such thing can be said about GDPR, but one of Jonathan, who some of you would have met previously from the UK's Information Commissioner's Office, has kindly agreed to come onto the call and to give his take on GDPR and specifically as it applies to DNS. And also to take any questions that you may have. So can I ask you, if you do have any questions you're particularly keen, or any ground you're particularly keen that he goes over, If you were able to drop me an email in advance, so I can sort of highlight to Jonathan what areas you particularly like him to cover, that will be really useful. For example, I'm sure he's going to go over, for example, instances where a browser or other client would be designated as a data controller under GDPR, but I'm sure people have got their own specific questions that you'll want to ask. With an important health warning, he's giving you his take on the legislation, but with a caveat that he's not giving you advice that you can apply to your own individual circumstances. That needs to be looked at separately in a lot more detail. So he's talking about the principles, but I'm sure that will be quite informative for people nevertheless. So please, if you have got questions on GDPR, please forward those to me, and I'll collate those and share those with Jonathan in advance of the call, to make it as useful as possible to everyone. And similarly, the following week, so the 2nd of November, a nearly auspicious day for those of you in the US, Kenji from Google is going to join us to talk about Google's plans to implement ECH, or to at least test ECH, encrypted client hello. Or for those of you with some background in this area, is the sort of replacement or an evolution from encrypted SNI, albeit it covers more than just SNI. So that's still not a standard. It's still being discussed within the TLS working group and being developed. But nevertheless, Google are looking to start to test it within Chrome. So Kenji is going to join us to talk about that, and would again like any questions that you may have, or any ground you particularly want him to cover. If you could notify in advance, that will again make that session more useful. So if you could email to me any questions, that would be most welcome. So if someone wanted to come in then with a question or a comment. No, or maybe just come off mute accidentally. So to recap, that's the 26th, Monday, the next Monday, the 26th for GDPR, the following Monday, the 2nd of November for ECH, and the ECH session will be 1 hour earlier UK time. Do check if you're not on UK time, because it's the time of year when some of us have our clocks changing. So do check what your local time equivalent is to UK time on the 2nd of November, just in case you haven't changed in step. So it may or may not be an hour earlier for you. So that was pretty much it from me for this week. Is there anything that anyone else would like to raise on the call today? Because I'm conscious I've been talking a lot, and I'm sure you just want to keep hearing my voice. So is there anything anyone else wants to bring up this week? Give you a moment to think, and if you are talking, you're currently on mute. I'll take that as a no. Okay, well, in which case, please have a look at the ADD user requirements document. If you're quick, you can copy the URL that Chris posted on the chat. So please have a look on that. Also think about Glenn's email and share your thoughts on the ADD mailing list, whether you think that's a good approach or not. And then if you've got any questions on GDPR or indeed on ECH, please just email me directly, and I'll add those to the material that will be covered either next Monday or the following Monday. And other than that, we'll sort of call it a day there today. So short call today, but have a fantastic week, everyone.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Right.
bye.
Thank you.